right?
You sure you don't look like a big hitter, man, on your first one?
That I do. That's why you're my first one. Absolutely.
So, I receive it, man. Yeah, man, it's my pleasure, man. I always enjoy talking to you. We have great conversations, man.
Yeah, no, we do. We get real deep, yeah. But not over the head deep. But maybe it is over the head for some people. I don't know. All right, so let's get this started, man. I got my boy with me, my brother from another mother. I mean, the Haitian sensation. The lawyers of lawyers.
Who wasn't a Haitian sensation growing up? All of us, right. Man.
Every single one of us, man. Man, Antoine, how you doing, bro?
Man, I am blessed and highly favored and super honored to be a part of this podcast, man. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Now, let me tell you something about Brother Dumas Esquire. The man is professional, okay? He's professional. I text him and say, hey, brother, I want you on the podcast. And then I get a phone call from an unknown number, and I'm like, who this? I'm caught up on my bills. We doing all right. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I answered the call, thinking it might be for my extended warranty. And it's like, hey, I'm the assistant of Mr. Dumas Esquire.
Oh, man.
And we want to put you on his calendar. I said, woo! My God.
Yes.
Tell you something, man. To come up, if nobody else sees how the Lord has been increasing,
come on.
I see it and I celebrate it.
Amen. Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen.
It's your story, which we'll probably get into one day, but your story is amazing, man. You've been through quite a journey, bro.
Absolutely. I can say the same to you. You know, you've come a long way as well, man. I mean, listen, we started at Oakwood. What is it? My goodness, it's over 10 years now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sheesh. I'm at 15 years from when I started. I started Oakwood in 2004.
Oh, yeah. I started Oakwood 2007. Because, I went to Hampton before I came to Oakwood.
That's right.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're talking about, like, Bell Tower, religion, theology forum, all the way to, you got your ministry with the Friday nights and your music and your family. You're killing it in every regard. You're a leader online. Absolutely, man. We've come a long way.
Yeah.
Big time influencer, man. I love seeing your posts, man. I just I be wanting to weigh in, but sometimes I'm just glad you said it and not me. So, so I keep all that energy over there.
Oh man, yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm actually releasing a master class, and so the master class this time is for the ladies. The women have been asking me like, hey, bro, you did a course for the men. Can we at least get a class helping us understand masculine energy and how that works? And so I'll be doing that class. The beauty is I'm going to not just teach women how to deal with their masculine energy as it is involved with their partner, with their man. I'm going to help them understand how to deal with their masculine energy as it relates to themselves, right? Because as humans, we have masculine and feminine energy. We all have it.
That's right.
And so I want to kind of help correct this narrative that men are masculine and women are feminine, and kind of reframe it where men represent the masculine principle, women represent the feminine principle, but we all have masculine and feminine energy in us.
Absolutely. I mean, and the thing is, when we are all individually balanced with our masculine and feminine within, we make better partners for other people. Exactly. It's when we have deficiencies in our masculine or feminine principle that we seek it from others and seek to hook on to them like a parasite and suck the life out of them, that it leads to, unstable and unfulfilling relationships.
No, absolutely. 100% correct. We as a society, we're just a bigger version of who we are as individuals. Like we as individuals, we are a community. We have trillions of cells that communicate and talk and interact and die and are born and are sick, all within us. And our body is a society in and of itself. And so when we learn how to balance our inner society, then we can learn how to balance our outer society, right?
Actually, you taught me that. You made a great point not too long ago about how, the cell, I think you said the space between our cells, our atoms, are just as wide as the space between the stars and the planets in the sky, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at it, our bodies are a universe, are a
Yep.
constellation, and literally take just as much space relatively, within our inner selves as we see in the outer sky. And so if that's the case, absolutely, if you look at it that way, from that point of view, we have a lot going on inside of us, that we try to bring over to other people without fully understanding.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. And so hopefully this class will help the women.
Mm.
I'm gonna have a Q&A session at the end, and I'm gonna do my best to not trigger them, because that's my only, I ain't gonna hold you, you know what I mean? That's my only hiccup, because women tend to personalize everything they hear.
Oh,
and
man.
It's like, yo, I'm not talking about you.
No, I mean, listen, man. I hear you, man. I think for the most part, if they paid to be a part of the class, they're most likely going to be more open to receiving that feedback, and more, balanced enough to know how to distinguish between, a general principle and whether it applies to them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really just, when we do those public posts, that you just be triggering people, man. And I just feel for you. You're so patient with them. I don't know how you do it, man.
Yo, all of my guys, they be texting me like, yo, how do you do this, bro? Like, yeah, it's the heart in me, man. It's the heart of the pastor in me,
That's
man.
right. That's right. That's right. As you reminded me today.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, aren't you a pastor? Let me find out, right? No, because truthfully, honestly, the things that you say, I mean, I'm sure you know this already, but still, the things that you say bless people, bro. Like you are leading people out of that darkness and into that marvelous light. You're challenging people to question where they are, what they're really saying when they believe things, or when they say they believe certain things. How does that work out? How does that live out? And even when you had when you posted that check, I'll never forget when you posted that check, I said, man, that wouldn't be me. I'm glad he did it, but that wouldn't be me. I get a check like that. Nah, I didn't. You never know. But I know for a fact you did it to inspire and to prove to the people that this is real. We're not just yapping our gums or just wiggling our fingers, but truly, when you align yourself with intention, when you align yourself with divine energy, and when you recognize that you are the son of God, the daughter of God, that you could command all of creation to move according to your will and desire. Because when you speak, you have the mark of God on you. When you're talking, it is as if God is speaking, right? And so I can say to the world, this is what I want. But if I say it with my mouth, I must also live it with my life, right? And be in alignment with what I'm asking for. And most people, that's where they fall short, is walking in alignment.
Everything is about alignment. Everything. Your car has to be aligned. Your musical instruments have to be aligned, in tune. Everything about this universe is alignment. The animals, the ecosystem is perfect alignment. Our bodies, homeostasis, perfect alignment. Our spinal cord, perfect alignment. Any deviation from perfect alignment results in pain, to the host. And so, if you're not seeking alignment within your doctrines, your views, you're experiencing resistance. You're going to experience pain. And, being willing and open and secure enough to question your views, I think, is my gift, but also my desire for the people that I speak to online is like, yo, don't be so sure or arrogant, really, about what it is you say you believe, especially if your whole life is telling you you're out of alignment. All the signs on the dashboard are flashing, and you're telling me you're in perfect alignment. It doesn't make sense.
No, you're absolutely correct. And with that being said, that's like the perfect segue to the conversation, right? Because, Haitian history to me is such a rich and beautiful history, beautiful, in the sense of it's the perfect, well, I wouldn't say perfect, but it's a beautiful story of the ashes into beauty, the phoenix coming out of the ashes. It's a story of liberation, it's a story of how impossible is possible, because when we look at Haitian history, and particularly the Haitian Revolution is what I'm focusing on, because that is where Haitian history starts. For a lot of people, they may not know, there was the natives there. They didn't call the island Haiti per se, but when they liberated themselves, they chose the name Haiti. Haiti was not given by the colonizers. Correct. Haiti was not a name given by the oppressor. It was a name chosen by free people, to represent who they were. And so we have to start with the revolution if we're talking Haitian history, maybe a little bit before how they got there. But Napoleon was the most powerful navy in the world. There was not a navy more powerful than Napoleon's navy.
Navy and army.
Navy and army. Thank you. So that's not that is objective. That's not subjective. That's not my opinion. At that time, Napoleon was the man. And for Haiti to be able to free themselves, my God, a mixed clan of African people with mixed dialect, but finding unity in their spiritual ideologies. And that's kind of where we're going, right?
Well, I'm ready for that. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It was their spiritual ideologies when the white man, being ignorant in his ways, chose icons that resonate deeper with the ones who created them, right? Not realizing that when the Africans saw these icons, they identified with them similarly, at least from the resources that I've read. When the Catholics started, because Catholic was stealing from everybody, right? There is no Catholicism without paganism.
It's universal, yeah.
Exactly.
It's a melting pot.
Yep. And so they stole and they started using these symbols, not knowing really what they meant, trying to, reinterpret it for their doctrines or whatever. But the power of the symbols resonated something in the Africans who saw them. They started seeing similarities. They started calling it out by name, seeing similar usage of the name. What book? I'm trying to remember the book where it talked about where the names of the voodoo deities came from. How when you look at all of the tribes, how the name that they ended with was already similar to the names that it already had.
It was just a translation.
Right? Yeah.
If an existing, what do they call it? I forget the word. But yes, I agree. So let me say this, right? That's gonna bother me because I'm live and I forgot a word. So like how you said about the ideology being aligned, leading as the impetus to be able to lead that revolution. There's no way you can overstate that, especially when it comes to Haitian Revolution, right? So an example that jumps out to me that I've learned in my studies is how during the Haitian Revolution, women played a vital role. So you're talking about that whole, energy balance within women. Like women were out there killing it too. They were a part of this army, and they were on the front lines, especially when they were taking the citadel, that main, fortress in near Okap in the north of Haiti. When they were taking that last real stronghold of the French, the women were the ones leading the charge. They would lead the charge with their children, their newborn babies, attached, strapped to their back. Wow. And their job was to first see if they can pick up stones to stuff inside the cannons to prevent the cannons from killing the soldiers. Wow. And if they ran out of stones, they would use the babies off their back that they just gave birth to and stuff them down the cannon because they knew that those babies would come right back. They did not feel that they were losing anything. There was no fear of death, right? It was, hey, listen, this is Super Mario. Jump in here, take one for the team, and come back and join me when you're ready. So the ideology was to be credited for the strength and the bravery they had in taking down their enemy. right? So the two cannot be separated. You know, a lot of that is a recurring theme in Haitian history. You know, there's another great story about how, there you go, Sheroes of the Haitian Revolution, right?
Yeah.
In this book written by Baina Bello, Professor Dr. Baina Bello, she talks about how this lady named Toya, right, was a general in the Dahomean army, right? So you think about like the Wakanda, you know, army, the women with the shaved heads and everything, and the spears, you know, guarding the king. This is a fictional representation of a real army that existed in Africa. The Dahomean army of women soldiers were what the Amazon legends were based off of, right? These women were fierce, balanced male-female principle within themselves, but they were fierce. This lady Tantoya guarded the king, right? So she was up there. She was top dog, right? And it took over 500 troops to be able to bring her into captivity. She killed everybody that sent after her by herself, single-handedly, like biblical, you know, stories like you read about Samson taking on, you know, 1,000 people. This woman was doing that, right? Less than 500 years ago, she was doing that. And she eventually was captured, right? But then the minute she was sold on the auction block, she broke free, got her freedom, and ran to the mountains when she came to Haiti. She did not spend a day in captivity, right? She endures the whole Middle Passage. We know what that's like. We've, you know, there's stories, you can Google it. That was horrendous to begin with. And then she arrives there and has enough strength to break from these people in broad daylight and run up to the mountains. So her ability to navigate, her ability to you know, to fight, her ability, all of that, right? To find food and sustenance in the ground, in the earth, to give her, you know, strength and energy for the journey. All of that is what she was trained in. So she gets up there in the mountains, she's free, she's mixing with these people they call Maroons, who were just like her and were not having it, right? Who started a whole civilization settlement in the mountains, right? She gets up there, and then one day she sees a pregnant woman in labor. And so she, you know, first makes sure the coast is clear, whatever, and then delivers the baby. So she's also versed in medicine as well. She delivers this baby, but the woman was dying because she had lost a lot of blood. The woman makes her promise to train the boy up to be like her in the knowledge of warfare and independence and what it's like to be free. This woman who died did not want her son to be born into slavery, so she risked her life, literally gave up her life to make sure he was born free. So Toya decides, hey, listen, I can survive here in the wilderness on my own, in the jungle on my own, but if I try to raise up a newborn, that's not likely. So what she did, she voluntarily entered slavery with this child just to be able to give him a healthy, structured place to wherein he can grow, right? And so eventually the slave masters saw how close they were and continued to separate them. But every time they would separate them through her magic and through her understanding of the stars and energy, she would always find him like a compass, right? Always led to the goal, right? To the North Pole. And she would find him and she would escape from her current master at night, go train him in warfare, and then go back to slavery in the morning like nothing happened. Right?
That's awesome.
But it's not even done. This man eventually grew up to be known as Jean-Jacques Dessalines.
I knew that's where you was going.
No,
Doc. Go ahead. Yes,
that
sir.
doesn't give you chills, right?
Yeah.
Like imagine that, you know, the chain of circumstances that have to happen perfectly for something like that to take place, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But she trained him as a slave at night, part-time, right? And he became the liberator and basically, you know, defeated Napoleon after Toussaint was captured and tricked into going over to France. Right. So this guy, and again, he was one of the people who told Toussaint not to go over to France, like you're getting tricked. But whatever the case is, you know, she's a powerful woman. She was able to live and see the revolution. She lasted a few years, and then afterwards, and then she died. Her mission was accomplished. She was free in her home country, came to Haiti, and made sure her people got free there as well. That cannot be separated from her ideology. Right? All of that is possible because, not in spite of, but because of her ideology. And I remember how much I used to struggle and do mental gymnastics to sit there and try to rationalize away, events like Bois and all these other things, to be able to say that Haiti was not helped by voodoo, Haiti was helped by God, voodoo's the devil, Haiti was helped in spite of voodoo, and whatever the case might be. I would try so hard to take credit away from what was so obviously in front of me, because it didn't sit well with my religious, presuppositions. To get to the point where I am now, where I'm able to piece things together and see, it for what it really is, there's no denying how the ideology was a critical part of Haitians' independence. And, they eventually went underground, and I can share the history behind why voodoo went underground and when it became a bad thing in Haiti, and why.
Yeah, well, no, let's actually talk about that. Not to cut you off, but let's talk about that. And I want to walk the people through it, because voodoo, you grew up in the 90s. You know how voodoo is like the go-to joke, right? You know what I'm saying?
You eat cats.
Yeah, but what's funny is I'm older now and mature enough to realize that in all the jokes, there was no denying the power.
The power. Yes.
Yes. Like, they people really, like, when something happened, it was, who put this voodoo on me? Like they recognized that it worked, that it, but in that they also were very quick to demonize voodoo and claim that it is of the devil. And so, I have my ideas, and we're gonna chop it up. Why do you think the Western world was so quick to convince us specifically that voodoo was of the devil? Why do you think it's difficult for them to acknowledge that God gave us, power, and God gave us wisdom, and all a miracle is it's a manifestation outside of your perspective. That's what a miracle is, a manifestation outside of your perspective. When you can't see how it happened, you call it a miracle. But the miracles is meant to help your perspective grow.
Yeah.
Like I said, the impossible is possible. So anyway, why do you think they made us devils?
So great question. So I don't know how many years it was after the revolution. Napoleon was embarrassed, had to sell land in America.
That's right.
In a purchase to be able to finance the rest of their ongoing military campaigns. Haiti put a big dent into France's reach as an empire, and eventually led to France's downfall as a superpower. Where before that, Haiti, with its richness in agriculture and natural resources, was the pearl of the Antilles, literally made France the richest country in the world because of the wealth that was created from the gold, the minerals, the sugarcane, the coffee, everything coming from Haiti. It was a cash cow, right? So when you lose that much income and you have to sustain a certain way of life, it required them selling almost half of the United States to make up what they lost from Haiti, right? And so they weren't willing to give up, without a fight. As a matter of fact, it was customary for the general of the winning army to kill the general of the losing army. But Dessalines, in a moment of graciousness and understanding that France wouldn't likely give up right away, sent a message by returning the general, allowing him to leave, putting them on a boat and sending them back to France. And when the boat was far enough to where they couldn't be caught by the Haitian army, symbolically, even though they were out of range, they started shooting cannonballs back at the island of Haiti, like F you, even though you just let us live, right? So from jump, Haiti knew that the job wasn't over just because they had won. And so Napoleon then sent emissaries to come to Haiti, spies, whatever you want to call it, to find out where the vulnerabilities were. And in all the literature and correspondence that was sent back to Napoleon, right, addressed to Napoleon, it's unequivocal, right? They said, one guy said, you can send all of the armies in the known world to this island and you will not take this island from these people. They They are one in mind, one in spirit. You would have to kill all of them before you can ever take this island from them. This is what a spy tells their boss, who happens to be Napoleon, who does not want to hear something like that, right?
Of course.
Not at all. And so the strategy, first of all, the advice was taken and accepted by Napoleon, right? Because there was a general respect that they had for what the Haitians were able to do. Absolutely. And fear instilled as a result. And so they accepted that feedback and decided to change up their strategy, right? Haiti was suffering from an embargo as a result of their independence. The Western countries refused to trade with them because France still had that type of diplomatic power to enforce that. And so because of the embargo, you know, all this wealth and natural resources they had, they weren't able to trade it, right? And so
well, wait, I'm sorry, real quick, break down what is an embargo for those who are listening.
Okay, sure.
Who might not know, right?
An embargo is like a siege, in the sense that they basically create a blockade around the country with military ships, and also a blockade in terms of, you know, letters and documents you send to other countries saying that, hey, listen, if we find out you're trading with this company, or first of all, we forbid you to trade with this country, right? Because of something they've done to us, they've aggrieved us. And unless you want to also be in that boat with them where we make you a persona non grata, then you cannot trade with them. And as the #1 superpower in the world, they had the ability to say that at the time, right? Absolutely. And so no one was willing to cross them in order to go trade with Haiti, right? And then you also had white supremacy going on too. So it wasn't like it was much of a sacrifice. So anyway, they changed up the strategy. They said, hey, listen, get the Pope involved, right? Get the Pope involved. The church, right? Because church, you can't kill church people for coming, right? The church sends a delegation from the Pope and says, hey, listen, we will get all of the Western world, the civilized world, to accept and respect your sovereignty as an independent nation, right? Because remember, there was a lot of wars off the coast of Haiti, you know, in terms of the Navy. Our little, they called us pirates, but our little our ships, our boats were defeating Napoleon ships one after the other. British tried to come back and get in there. The Spanish tried to come back, and Haitians pirates beat all of them, right? For years. They were not giving up that island. And so they said, hey, listen, we'll get all these superpowers to accept you and respect you as a sovereign nation under two conditions, right? You allow us to bring our church within your country, bring Catholicism, our covenants, our monasteries, whatever, to bring our church within your country. And 2, you give us the right to educate your kids. Woo! So we will run and manage and own the state-run education system. Your kids are not being educated right now. We will pour money into your country, build schools, and educate your kids, right? And I don't remember if it was Dessalines or the guy after Dessalines who was like, this is terrible, this is signing away the country, whatever, but, you know, the people are starving. You know, that's how they came up with Soup Jumeau, because, on Independence Day, there were so many people who were hungry and dying from hunger. And they said, the wife of Dessalines at the time said, if everyone cannot eat on Independence Day, then we are not free yet. And so she went around, because she was a chef and good with herbs and everything. And she said, you know what, this pumpkin is filling, right? So we're going to use pumpkins and, other, random things, because it's filling, and everybody can have a full stomach, at least on Independence Day. And so she created Soup Jumeau. It wasn't something that they drank or ate before. She created it for Independence Day, just to make sure no one would go hungry on that day, right?
That's interesting, because the story I heard was that they used to make this soup for the masses but couldn't drink it themselves. So on Independence Day, they made it for themselves for the first time. Either or, I like both. I like both of them. Yeah. So, I like yours better. That's a boss move right there.
It's actually in this book too. But anyway, so they come in there, they set up their churches, they set up their schools, and like clockwork, they start teaching people voodoos of the devil, right? Voodoos of the devil, voodoo is gonna put you in hell, and fear of death, you need us to get you through the pearly gates, and through doctrine, right?
Yes.
They couldn't do it with swords. They couldn't do it with guns. Through doctrine. They couldn't do it with embargo.
Yeah.
Through doctrine, they were able to get in the minds of the Haitians, right? And then from there, obviously, the rest is history, right? They had a lot of presidents afterward who would campaign on being able to, like, okay, because Haiti was now cursed, right? And people accepted that Haiti was cursed. Presidents would campaign on eradicating Haiti of voodoo, and would go around burning temples and cutting down trees and all these different things, and they would campaign on ridding Haiti of this curse. And so voodoo had to go underground for a long time. And when it went underground, it went into Catholicism. It went into Catholicism because they noticed the similarities, and they said, hey, listen, it's not the purest form, but we can still, exist and stay alive if we operate within their system and teach our people our stuff on the side.
Right. Yeah. It's and I find that to be very intelligent, me personally, because to be able to adapt the way that they adapt, because voodoo in of itself was an adaptation of many West African spiritual systems, and finding what works on this land, because the herbs that they use, the stones, the tree barks, the whatever, right? Everything had I'll say a certain vibrational component to it. It wasn't like randomly selected, but they understood, this type of wood would do this, or this type of herb would do that. So to come to a foreign land and find plants of a similar vibration to do the same thing is, if that's not proof of a divine connection, I don't know what is.
That was their advantage. They knew the herbs, right? So they were able to poison their masters, right? They were able to cause hell. They were able to create explosives from nature.
Yep.
Right. So these guys, it's their understanding of the earth and their connectedness to it that gave them the advantage that the technology and the superior arms of the French could not handle.
Yeah, correct.
And the thing is, the earth is still more powerful than any army on the planet.
That's right.
It's the greatest weapon. But when you separate a people from knowledge of the earth, my goodness, now it's like, oh, now I have to fight you on your terms.
Yeah. And we'll never win that way.
To outspend the United States military in terms of technology.
Exactly.
But that spiritual technology, that's always going to be an advantage.
Yeah. No, you just said something. I'm gonna say it again, but I'm gonna say it differently, right? The connection between spirituality and understanding the earth realm, right? Because a lot of spirituality, not a lot, all of spirituality is being in harmony with yourself and with creation as a whole. All spirituality is about being in harmony with life force. And there's always been an understanding that the earth is a life force. Even the planets, the stars, the Europeans convinced us that we worship these things versus acknowledging the life force that these things emanate, give off, right? The moon gives off a life force. Saturn gives off a life force. Everyone wants to talk about Mercury retrograde, right? But, all the planets are really power sources for us. You see what I mean? And when we learn how to pull from that, that is what we could call spirituality. But what the Europeans gave us, they gave us a spirituality, a form of godliness, like the scriptures say, but lack the power.
The power thereof. That's right.
Yeah.
About laws of nature. Man, listen, the one thing human technology can never do is break and violate the laws of nature.
That's right.
Like the sea will swallow up anything if you get on its nerves enough.
Yeah, no, facts.
Like the laws of nature are undefeated. We still have to operate within those laws, right?
Absolutely.
And so when you're able to use that to your advantage, use those laws to your advantage, you are unstoppable force, and you have no right to fear anybody.
Correct.
And especially when you understand that death is not actually a death.
Right.
So that's what they fear. That's why they had to bury that thing, because you cannot have slaves not fearing death.
Right.
In America, slavery only existed because they told us that suicide and and all of that was going to send us straight to hell. That's the only reason it lasted as long as it did. But if you don't believe that you die and you go to an eternal sleep and then that's it, if you have one life and that's it, then there's no way anybody can conquer you.
Yeah. So let's build on that. Let's build, because this isn't a Christian podcast, but I do have people who are Christians who listen, right? Just want to make it plain, right? But I do have people who are Christian who listen, and people who aren't church at all. They're just getting some information at the moment. But how does a Christian reconcile with that, right? This idea of what they taught us about hell. First off, is there a hell? And if there is, what they taught us about hell might be a lie. Like what they say, because, and I'll give you an example. When I tell people that it's very difficult to go to hell, like from how we understand it, they look at me crazy, right? Because it's always the way is narrow and only a few will find it, right? That's kind of what they. But when I explained how the idea, as I understand it, is in order to go into that eternal destruction, if such a thing exists, you have to completely turn away from God. And to completely turn away from God, you'd have to first know that there's a God to turn away from. And most of humanity, that's their number one question. They're not even connected to themselves enough to be connected to the Creator enough to even turn away. They're still trying to figure out, where is the Creator in me? Where is there a Creator? Is there a God? Is there? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? So I say we would first have to be in tune to some degree. But what are your thoughts?
So I have a number of thoughts on that. And so shout out to anyone who is enjoying this this Christian talk on Lawrence's podcast. I apologize if you weren't expecting this. But let me say this. First of all, it cannot be overstated how critical your place of birth factors into whether you become a Christian or not.
Talk about it, Doc.
Every nation in the history of the world has a religion.
Yes.
That's how they maintain their sovereignty, their rule, is by making a spiritual commitment, making patriotism a spiritual commitment, right? Enforced by God himself. And to this extent where when nations used to fight, it would be my God versus your God.
Yeah.
It wouldn't just my country versus your country, right? And so where you are born in the empire, the country you're born in, you most likely going to accept their religion as the religion, because that's how they sustain themselves. Okay. So if you happen to be born in a nation that does not practice Christianity, and now you're being judged on your 30, 40, 50 years of life being an adherent of another religion besides Christianity, and now are being doomed to an eternity of, or not necessarily an eternity of destruction, but a destruction with eternal consequences. How we flip that, right?
Yeah.
Then, somehow that's balanced. Somehow that makes sense. You don't even have to be a lawyer or a actual judge in America to know that the punishment should fit the crime, right? And so if you don't think God has enough wisdom to adhere to that same principle, then that says more about you and your commitment to being right than it says about your commitment about being fair and equal, right? And just. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, the same preacher, and this is to the Adventists, the same man who is responsible, according to Adventists and many other scholars, for changing the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday, Emperor Constantine, within the same council, is the one responsible for putting the books of the Bible together and creating the canon.
Yes.
So he was led by the devil when he changed Saturday to Sunday, but he was led by the Spirit when he put those 66 books together. Make it make sense.
Talk to them,
right?
Talk to them.
So the thing is, Constantine realized, hey, you know what? These Christians don't fear death. They believe they are the resurrection.
Yeah.
Right? They believe that even if they were to die, that they have the power to raise the dead now and in the afterlife.
That's right.
Or in the judgment.
Yeah.
Right? So you got people sending handkerchiefs in my country, and that's healing the sick.
Yeah.
This is not something I can tolerate. This is subversive at its best. And so persecution happened for a long time, right? And finally you get to Constantine and he's like, hey, listen, how can I, as emperor, claim divinity, a greater, a higher divinity, a divine right to rule based on what I am claiming is my immortality, and my subjects also believe they have and possess the same immortality as me. If they understand they're immortal and they recognize that I'm immortal, there's no difference between us. There's no reason for them to defer to me and give me this power to rule over them. And so for control purposes, I need to edit the Bible to omit as many references to resurrection and eternal life as possible in order to keep them inferior to me. Just like Pharaoh did with the Egyptians. They cannot all believe that they are eternal.
Right.
I have to be the only one who's eternal. And I might be a little off with the Egyptians, but the point is that Constantine, and there's a great book I have read. Oh, where? That one's on my nightstand, preacher. But it's a great book on resurrection and the history of how the Catholic Church systematically removed as many references to resurrection and reincarnation as possible. But you still have things like
Elijah will come back.
Yeah, Elijah coming back as John the Baptist. You have that parable of Christ with the rich man and Lazarus, where there's the chasm, but they're able to communicate and, whatever, even between those two worlds. And you have a lot of other references as well about resurrection, specifically when the disciples approached Christ and said, hey, listen, who sinned?
Yeah.
This man or his parents?
That's right.
He was born blind.
Yep. John 9.
How could he have been born? How can he have sinned and been born blind?
Exactly.
The sin has to precede the punishment, right?
Exactly.
So that means at some point before this lifetime, he must have sinned. The sin didn't occur in the womb.
Right. Exactly.
So this is
passed
karma.
Down. Yeah.
Exactly. This is karma, either from his parents or from himself.
And they said that. They said from himself.
Yes.
Yet he was born blind.
He was born blind.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the known world, Greco-Roman Empire at the time, was steeped in the belief of reincarnation. Not one religion existed that didn't believe in it. Even the argument between the Sadducees and the Pharisees was based on reincarnation. Yeah. People breaking off and trying to reject it, and other ones being like, no, I'm not accepting that. This thing is real, right? Yeah. And right. So I think I got on a tangent, but I think the question was, how do you reconcile reincarnation with Christianity? Because it is Christian.
The idea of really voodoo, right? Because here's my thing, right? It wasn't just voodoo specifically, but it was this idea of hell. We were talking about hell a little bit, right? But I am of the belief, some will call me a Christian and some won't call me a Christian, right?
Same here.
Because I believe in the Messiah. I believe in the finished work of the blood of the Messiah. And that through faith in the Messiah, I believe the Messiah is the creator, though, so there's that connection. But through faith in the Messiah, we have eternal life. I believe that the Messiah, the one that we call Jesus, has and is dwelling among us in various forms.
Correct.
And so you don't have to accept Jesus to have accepted Jesus, right? Because the Messiah is the creator who manifests himself over and over again.
It's an anointing. They call him Jesus Christ. Otherwise, it's just Jesus, right? Right? It's Christ, the anointed one, that makes him the Messiah. And he's clear that those who worship me in spirit and in truth, right?
That's right.
Not in words, not in denomination affiliation, not in who you send your tithe to, not none of that. It's in spirit and in truth.
Correct.
So Paul clarifies and says that, hey, this law is written on all of our hearts. That's right. No matter where you are, you have this truth inside of you, and your ability, or to the degree that you honor and obey it, right? Whether or not you have the words to the same words to label it, to the degree that you obey it, makes you a godly person, makes you a son of Abraham, right? And so the idea that one must call Jesus Jesus in order to believe in Jesus is nonsense.
Exactly.
Right? You know, Christ himself throughout the Bible, throughout the Old Testament, you know, appeared as an angel to many different cultures at many different times. He had whole different priest systems with other cultures. You know, the Bible narrative that we have, I love this word, I'm going to trademark it one day, it's actually a narrative, right? Because it's a narrow view of the story of God in relation to man on earth through the eyes of the children of Abraham. It's narrow, right? When he told Abraham, hey, listen, chill out over here in Egypt in slavery, you know, for 400 years until the cup of the Amorites, Hittites, and them are full, right? How could that cup be full if you didn't have no expectations for them?
Exactly.
If you had no relationship with them.
Exactly.
Right? So God appeared to many people at many times, just like the Bible says, and through various prophets throughout the history of the world, right? Even when Elijah thought he was the only prophet left, God was like, yo, I got 400 more over here, right? So God is never without prophet or without a people on this planet. Christ himself said, I have sheep in other folds, right? And so, you know, their sheep are not necessarily going to have the same name for the shepherd, and that's okay. You know, and so voodoo is not inconsistent with that. In the same way, you can have Christians use Christianity to do the crusades and murder millions of people. You can have voodoo people who misuse voodoo in order to you know, gain advantages monetarily or, you know, whatever through on other people or romantically even, right? But it doesn't matter. The point is that there are universal laws, right? When God gave us dominion as Adam and Eve, when he gave us dominion as human beings over this earth, right? That dominion, you know, extended to a fear that fell over the animals. So no animal by itself will naturally attack you unless you attack it first, right? Correct. There's a fear over the animals. There's a dominion, and dominion, in order to be a king, dominion means to dominate over a region. In order to do so, there has to be laws. Right?
Has to be government.
Has to be government. Right? And these laws are through our mouth. Yes. Right? The same way God exercised creation over the world through his mouth by speaking into existence, we have that same skill as well. We have that same ability because we are made in the image and likeness of God. Right? And so voodoo recognizes, hey, listen, this power we have in our imagination, in our creativity, in our ability to speak things into existence, it can be used to make the plants grow. It can be used to make make it rain. It can be used to fall in love and stay in love. It can be used for a lot of different things, to connect with your ancestors, to learn lessons from those who failed at the test of life and learn from them in order to increase your karma on this earth and this life. And so voodoo recognizes, hey, listen, these principles, although packaged differently for the Christians, they apply to us as well. Right? And as long as the ultimate goal of Christianity and the ultimate goal of voodoo is to be at one with God, then the two cannot contradict one another.
That's right.
Atonement, at one-ment, is being one with God. It was literally Christ's prayer that they may be one as we are one.
That's right.
Right? I am the vine, you're the branches. Right? Whoever doesn't bear fruit from me, I cut you off. It's one entity, right? Being one with God is the goal of all spirituality, whether you're Native American, whether you're African, whether you're Asian, whether you're Indian, all the faith systems, their goal is to help you be at one with God, right? And to remove any attachment and ego and fleshly influence that gets in the way of God living through you.
Yes.
And to the extent that you are in alignment, then you can use these universal laws to your advantage.
Yes. Yes. No,
that is the gospel.
No, you're hitting it right in the head. And the alignment part, and my God, we're talking about the source, the creator. I know people like to play with words, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about being in alignment with God, talk about being in alignment with the source, the creator, the beginning of all things, and the finality of all things, right? The one who is, who was, will always be, the Almighty. When you are in alignment with the source, there is nothing that is out of your reach.
Correct.
Because when you're in alignment with the source, then that means the very things that you even desire is stemming, flowing from the source that can manifest it. And so a lot of people, they're trying to create parameters around things that's self-governing, mm-hmm. right? When you're connected to the source, then the parameters exist from the connection itself. So we don't have to create more parameters. You know, if I am connected, if I am and this is like real science, right? If I'm a random branch that's on the ground, didn't matter what tree I came from, literally does not matter what tree I came from.
You can be grafted.
If I graft myself to an apple tree,
I become an apple tree.
There is no need to set up laws to say, don't produce oranges, don't produce pears, don't produce grapes. There's no need for that, because what I'm connected to determines what I will produce.
Absolutely. Come on. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. That'll please. So, hey, look, man. Look. The thing is, we are joint heirs with Christ.
Yes.
We are sons and daughters of the same Father.
Yes.
As the Son of God.
Yeah.
That is our brother, the firstborn of creation. We are the nextborn, the afterborn, right? Yeah. So every privilege and immunity granted to Christ is granted to us.
That's right.
I use that word specifically because you see an ESQ behind my name. Like, the privilege and immunity clause is the 14th Amendment that made it possible for Black people to have the same rights as white people. Because the Constitution was not written for Black people to enjoy those rights. It was written for white males to enjoy those rights, right? Right. So the privilege and immunities clause says, hey, listen, if they have a privilege, if they have an immunity under the Constitution, now that's extended to you as well. As Christians, it's no different, right?
That's right.
Everything that Christ earned, every privilege he earned through his sinless life, we earned through him.
That's right.
Every immunity to death, to poison, to snake biting you, to whatever he lists in the end of Matthew is also immune. We are immune to it as well in Christ.
That's right.
Now, this is something we have to accept in order to enjoy. If I don't assert my rights, right? If I don't invoke my rights as a citizen, then I'm not going to get the protections of a citizen.
Correct. Yes, sir.
So we have to get to the point where we understand, hey, listen, Christ said, nobody takes my life. I lay my life down and I take it back up again.
That's what he said. Yeah.
Nobody can take my life, Lawrence.
Yeah.
Unless that authority is given to him by God.
Yeah, that's right. So I don't got to fear death.
We don't have to fear death.
Yeah, I don't have to fear death. Yeah.
Christ came back and was walking through walls. It.
Yeah. We don't ignore it. We're conditioned to ignore it, right? Because even when it's asked, because we were both in systems where the idea. Well, all right, we were both Adventists, right? And so in the Adventist. And so in the Seventh-day Adventist system, I know for me as a youth pastor, were you ever a youth pastor? You were a youth pastor. Yeah. You were the youth pastor at my own church. Yeah, that's crazy. And so as a youth pastor, our hands are tied. There are certain things we can't even discuss without getting reprimanded. Let me tell you a story, Brother Dumas, right? When I was teaching at Oakwood Academy, shout out to Oakwood Academy, right? I was their religious teacher for a little while.
I know that.
Yeah, I taught, you know, that story gets even funnier. My first time teaching there, I was teaching the freshman class. Then I left. I came back and ended up teaching the junior class, which was my original freshman class. Mm-hmm. Then they added on the senior class, and you know, they loved me, right? But in the junior curriculum at the time, you had to go through the Seventh-day Adventist doctrines.
Mercy.
Now, by this time, I'm like, I'm so connected to God, and the Most High is so faithful. I made a decision. Look, I'm just going to tell the truth. So what I would do is I would look at the doctrines, and I would not necessarily teach the doctrines as they were written. I would find ways to pull the truth out, but everybody would start questioning the doctrines, right? Because these are Adventist kids who know the doctrines already, but now I'm putting a little spin on it, just a slight spin. So when we were talking about the Trinity in class, I was emphasizing the oneness of God. I was emphasizing there is one God, right? So we talk about monotheism, talk about polytheism. Like, what's monotheism? Belief in one God. With polytheism, the belief in many gods. Okay, so we believe in one God. Yeah, we believe in one God. All right, and so that means then, no matter how we explain God, we can never divide God into separate entities because there's only one God. I almost got reprimanded for that, brother.
Whatever. Listen, so first of all, I taught at an academy too. Shout out to Bermuda Institute, 2009, right? I lasted 1 year. They come back for another one. But I know how it is. I got reprimanded for everything. But, you know, the idea of monotheism does not stand in contradiction to the plurality of gods that you see in other religions in Western Africa, like voodoo, right?
Correct.
I remember the word. The word is pantheon, right?
Pantheon,
so pantheon, yes. Right. The Greek pantheon, the Roman pantheon, the Sumerian pantheon, the Egyptian pantheon, all of them are identical.
Yes.
The voodoo pantheon, the Yoruba pantheon, they're all identical. The Native American pantheon, they have the same roles, different names, different faces, but the same roles across vast distances of land, right?
Yes.
They're all subscribing to the same truth.
Yep.
No communication with one another whatsoever, right?
Yeah, as far as
they're arriving at the same conclusions.
Right.
So there's something to be said there, but also even within Hebrew religion, the Hebrew Old Testament Abrahamic religion, they had names for God: Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Shammah, Jehovah, all these different things, right? They related to God in different ways. He was Lord of the Sabaoth, you know, or whatever. Like, he had different roles when it came to different times in the Hebrew calendar, right? Correct. Or through the Hebrew experience. Right? But it didn't stop him from being one God with many revelations, self-revelations, right? And they understood that. But it, you know, obviously in time, you know, things get watered down. People forget the spiritual significance of things, and then they start worshiping God as different gods, right? And it leads to idolatry and worship of Baal and things like that. But the thing is that it's not that the understanding of God in multiplicity is a bad thing. It's just that when you separate him and make him different entities, right? And each of these entities are now made in your image, you're actually, you know, just worshiping yourself. Right?
Yeah, no, facts. Yeah.
So he says, don't make images of me, you know, and worship them, because ultimately those images you're gonna make are gonna be things like you and like animals that are inferior to me, and you're gonna lose sight of who I am.
Exactly. Right? And the issue with losing sight of who God is that it restricts your consciousness. And so that is where we're supposed to be going.
It's for your good. It's not something God is imposing on you. He's saying, listen, if you want this car to run well, get an oil change.
Yes.
You can choose not to get one, but don't complain when your engine breaks down.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. That's exactly right.
They're not arbitrary.
No, and that's exactly right. And the pantheons, I look at the pantheon because it gets deep. I was talking to somebody else and I asked them, what an angel is, and they said a spiritual being, right? I'm like, a spiritual messenger. Okay, very good. A spiritual messenger. You know, a messenger in general, but if you want to talk about the spiritual messenger, that's fine. What is spirit made of? What is the essence of spirit? Energy. You know, is that not divine essence?
Yeah.
You know, because we never think about that. Like, the angels are made up of the same substance we're made up of, actually.
Absolutely.
And we just have a shell around us that separates us from the angels. We have this earthly shell around us, but we all have divine essence in us. But every spiritual system, like you said, they all have a pantheon of so-called gods, but really divine beings in which we can manipulate and interact with. But there's always that one.
Yes. So there's always that one. So it's like this. I compare it, and you're gonna get me in so much trouble with this. Can you really posting this online, man? So anyway.
Oh man, listen. Oh, let me tell you. So how much time we've been talking? By this point, they would be in my Patreon. Shout out to my Patreons. How y'all doing? Oh, I appreciate your support. So by this time, they're behind the paywall, so they already know what they get.
All right. So it's not the serious ones. So look, I sit in my car. I turn on my radio. If I want to hear hip hop for whatever reason, I know you like it, I can't stand it, right? I will turn to the hip hop station. I will, if I want R&B, I'll turn to R&B station. If I want country, if I want Spanish, you know, I'm in Miami now. If I want, you know, any other type, sports, you know, talk, news, talk, whatever, there's a station for it, right?
Yes.
It's one radio.
Yeah, I'm with that. I like that. Yeah.
So all of those quote unquote gods are frequencies.
Yes.
That you can tune into, tap into in order to gain a certain advantage in a certain area of your experience, right?
Absolutely.
If I need to go to war, I need to be in the mindset of war. And so my pantheon has a god of war that if I sacrifice or not necessarily sacrifice, but if I pray to or get in sync with that god of war, then I will become a better warrior.
Yes.
Right. So when the Bible says that, you know, you girded up my loins, you know, or the spirit, you know, whatever, that's intentional. There is a synchronicity that happens, a tuning of frequencies in order to do certain things. When you're about to fight, and you pray, you're praying for the god of war to or the frequency of war to inspire you to move in a way consistent with being successful at warfare, right?
Yes.
Same thing with love, same thing with farming and agriculture, same thing with you know, ruling, same thing with eating, you know, whatever you do for the glory of God. So each and every one of these deities, right, are just different dials on the radio.
Correct. I like
but it's one radio.
Yes. And you know, let's take it even further, right? If you don't mind, since we're already in trouble. When we use this word worship, the Western usage of the word worship is a lot different from the rest of the world's uses of the word worship. And so when they talk about, let's say, worshiping the god of war, you have to be familiar with that frequency in order to get the most benefits of that frequency, right? And so you can't wait until you've never accessed that warrior spirit. I call it the warrior spirit. You've never accessed that warrior spirit. You never tapped into that warrior spirit. You never interacted with that warrior spirit. Now you're about to get mugged, and you're like, "Oh, Jesus, save me!" You're not about to fight this man. You're gonna wait for someone else. But when you're constantly engaged in that warrior spirit, which some would call worship, then when you need to access and pull that warrior spirit out, it's available. And it's the same thing with the spirit of love. It's the same thing with the spirit of joy, the spirit of peace. You know, when I'll share a testimony, right? When my son was literally dying, my fourth child, he was literally dying. The doctors told Abby, we're running out of medical options. He was dying. I remember I had to pull over and I had to tap in and have a communication with the Most High. I asked the Most High, should I have faith or should I prepare a funeral? That was my question. I said, God, I want him to live. My desire is that he live. But should I have faith or should I plan a funeral? The Most High sent me a vision of my fourth as a teenager thriving.
That's all you need to know.
Vivid, and that's all I needed. Now, I was able to do that because I didn't wait for that moment to try to tap in. I've been tapping in. It's a familiar space for me, right? If I waited for that moment, I might testify like other people, God was silent. But no, God isn't silent. I haven't learned how to fine tune the dial. You see what I'm saying? So I'm getting static because you got to hit that right. You got to hit it right where it needs to be.
You know what I mean? One decimal point off and you're on a different station.
Completely. And it's noise or a whole other message, right?
Oh, good. I didn't know that story about your son.
Yeah. My son was legit dying, bro. And the thing is, you know,
I have a similar testimony. I'll share it too when we get back on.
Yeah, because it's important that we understand that worship is about being familiar with.
Absolutely. My son had a fever for a couple of days and it was up there 102, 103, and it wouldn't break. And I remembered a story about how I think Paul laid on a kid, and you know, I think Elisha had a similar thing. I went over, I laid on him, and I did the same thing, spread the arms, the legs, and everything. I said, transfer it to me. I can handle it. You know, let me be his let me be his healing or whatever. Like transfer it to me, and I can heal myself. You know, and I remember doing that, and in like 10 minutes or less, the fever breaking in him and coming over to me, and I was able to reject it and it left my body, and it was just like that. Everything we gave him was not working, man. Nothing was working at all. And you know, but you know, there's levels to this thing, man. And you know, I'm not talking, none of us apparently are talking based on theory. We're talking based on what we know. Like, you know, there's authority that comes with being a son of the Most High. You know, and if you're not in alignment with that and you don't see it, if it's not appearing in your life, then you are doing something wrong, not God.
Facts.
We're gonna end it there.
Yeah, man. Let's reconvene, brother. Like that's what they say in the courtroom, right? We're gonna reconvene. Is that what they say?
The recess, 10-minute recess, man. All right, boss.
Man, brother.